There are many other classes of envious people out there as well. We need to be careful to ensure that those who preach do so with a full adherence to the Word of God, in context, and with the foundational message that man is saved by Christ alone, by faith alone, and through grace alone. We can't add anything to that without harming ourselves. We will not come out unscathed. All right? Those who so preach do so, as Paul says, from goodwill. The word translated as such indicates that which is good and beneficial to others. Helps Word Studies further defines it by saying God's good pleasure requires something is done through his work of inbirthing faith. So you've got the contrast. You've got some indeed preach Christ from envy and strife, and some also from goodwill. Paul preached it solely from goodwill. He understood the magnitude of the grace that was bestowed upon him. And yes, when we get to Philippians chapter 3, he is going to say, I was a Hebrew of Hebrews. Man, I was the cream of the crop. He was a Pharisee. He was from the tribe of Benjamin. He says this twice, so it might not be what he says in Philippians. He says it in two places. He gives his qualifications. But being a Pharisee means that he was the epitome of biblical knowledge among the people of Israel. If anybody deserved to be declared righteous before God because of what they knew, it would be the Pharisees. And yet he was so appalled at who he was when he realized how hugely he had missed what had happened when Christ came, that he never got over it. He dedicated his entire life to striving forward for the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ, understanding that everything that he was, everything that he had as qualifications meant absolutely nothing. I believe the word he uses is skibala, which means rubbish. It belongs on the dung heap. All right. I may have used that word wrong, but I do believe that's the word he uses. All right. So this is something that Paul was adamant about. He preached out of goodwill. He preached out of love for the gospel and wanting to see people brought out of bad doctrine. Elsewhere, he writes about every wind of doctrine, as if it's just blowing around and people are just getting sucked up in it and they're just being pushed around by all of these winds of bad doctrine. There's one Spirit, and he blows very consistently through the Bible, breathing out his word through the men of God who gave us the word of God. The message is consistent, it is united, it is harmonious, and we have a sure word if we are willing to simply properly apply it. And like I said, I worry about these things because if I'm wrong on a point of doctrine, then I am the one that has to stand before the Lord and say, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. I was incorrect, and it bothers me, and it should bother every single person. If you're out there telling people the gospel and then going beyond that simple message and teaching them doctrine, you should be worried that you are maybe telling somebody something that is incorrect, and you should be willing to say, I want to make sure that what I'm teaching them is correct, because you too will be held accountable.